you, I'm an investor. He hasn't sold me yet on him as a person. He's got to do a better job. It's not just two of them. They got to do a better job showing me if they want millions of bucks, they want me to invest money like that. I have to believe in them as a person. This is how our brain is set up. There's a professor I just interviewed named Joseph Ledoux, professor at NYU, and he talks about how we have these parts of our brain that are very primitive. So whenever you're selling and persuading people about your idea, whether it be investors or somebody you want to date, what do they think of you? What's the gut feeling they get? People operate on hunches, for good or bad. Now, the process with which so just think about this in like a dating context. What makes people want to go on a second date with you? Okay, number one is, are they attracted to you as a person? Number two is, how do you do the date? Like if your first date, you propose to them, you get down on one knee, they're gonna be scared off because you seem desperate, right? So the process with which you go through the dating, seduction, persuasion, whatever words you want to use. What you actually talk about, what the date actually is, whether you go to Chinese food or Italian food, that's not how people determine. Yet a lot of people fixate on the wrong things. Fixate on you as a person, the perception. There's a good book by Heidi Halvorson, and it talks about how basically how we perceive ourselves is only about 30% correlated, I think I have that right, with how other people see us. Meaning most of us are going through life with a blur. We're like seeing ourselves as whatever, this amazing person. We see ourselves as better looking than we are, or maybe worse than we are, right? We have self-esteem issues. You really have to be able to pinpoint and control, not in a manipulative way, but you have to be able to control the perception of the person that you're talking to. My neighbor decided to blow leaves while I'm talking. Anyway, so a couple other things. So these are the different biases. The main thing to take away, people are not that logical. And you may have heard this before, but I'm telling you, this has mind-blowing implications because you got to put it into practice. That's why, for guys, I always say, Ryan Gosling in these movies, he did this movie called Only God Forgives, and it's such a Ryan Gosling movie. He doesn't even talk in the movie the first like 5 or 10 minutes. But women are still attracted to him because it's the person and the process. It's not about what he's saying. And so when you bring this back around to, let's say you want to build $1 million company, same principle. What do people's instinctual gut feeling? And by the way, that's why Apple has now become the largest company in the world and surpassed Microsoft. People have iPhones much more than they are in Apple products because now Apple's not a person, but legally in the United States a corporation is a person, but it's an entity, and people like Apple. Steve Jobs was the king of making Apple cool, making it like it was kind of this anti-technology yet still technological. Like Microsoft was like hardcore corporate, and Apple pulled off this coup business-wise. They're now worth $700 billion valuation. I think it's the largest valuation in history of humans because Steve Jobs understood this. Now, what they're selling is still a good product. So that's why I said you don't want to be good at marketing and sell a crappy product. Like Charlie Munger says, you can't polish a turd. So if you have something horrible and you just want to make $1 million, I hope you won't listen to this. Now, I've just given you one of the angles. There's 25 more. I'm not going to get, how long have we been going here for?
Oh. 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll go a few more minutes. So, but I am going to do a free talk, an online talk. I've been doing this series of online talks. They fill up quick, and I'm not just saying that, literally do. I crashed the servers the last 3 times I did it. So you should see a link below here. Click the link if you want to hear the full talk. And I'm going to talk on the full 25 techniques to master $1 million persuasion. So the other thing is, click the link. It's free. You just put in you just register, and it'll hold your spot. If you wait too long, I'm telling you, it fills up. Last time we had to not let a whole bunch of people on. So click the link. It's either above or below, wherever. Now, another one of these, okay? And I'm not going to flip the page because it's very windy today. So I'm going to put a little number 2 here. The story. So if you study philosophy, real high level philosophy. There's all these concepts, whether they be, you know, cosmological, whether it be epistemology, all these different kind of fancy words. Well, ontology is one of them. And I'm gonna break it down in layman's terms. All humans are like, their brains are like a movie theater, and they are projecting a movie, and it's their perceptions of life. So here's one mistake you can make, and I've made this mistake. If you want to lose a lot of money real quick, I didn't understand this. I lost $28 million over a few years in lost revenue from not understanding what I'm about to tell you. And what it is that to move people and actually convince them is very difficult. In fact, most people that agree with you, when you think you're good at persuading, they already agreed with you before. You know, sometimes I get too big of a head and I get cocky and think I'm good at marketing, but what's really happening in large part for all of us is that you're finding the people who already kind of agree with you. And so if your idea is that you're gonna make such a good marketing angle that all the people that hate, you know, imagine if Steve Jobs goes, everybody who hates cell phones, I'm gonna market my iPhone to them. Forget it. You must market to the story that's already in people's head, especially if you want to get the low-hanging fruit and make money relatively quickly. Now, there is a time when there's a book written about this called Crossing the Chasm, where you'll cross over and you'll be able to reach what's called the pragmatists, the conservatives. You do that later. At the beginning, to make your first $1 million company, you want to find the people that the story, the movie that's already playing on the screen of their brain is already aligned with what you do. And then all you have to do is show them how it's aligned. So the concept of persuasion a lot of times is you take somebody who's over here and you show them why they should be over here. But what you want to do is take the person that's already here and doesn't realize you're right next to them. So you use a little persuasion to be like, hey man, we're already right here together. To move somebody from here to here takes so much money and so deep of pockets that unless you are backed by a large fund and you have 20 to 50 million dollars behind you, I wouldn't do it. You know the old saying, don't go where angels fear to tread. That's where angels fear to tread. That's where big companies fear to tread. By the way, the story, that's why brands are created, because brands create their own story and then they align people through the 25 cognitive biases into their story. So that's a more sophisticated way. I'll be talking about that in this talk. So click the link and if you want to get a little more sophisticated. But look, if you're watching this and I get people watching this at 18 years old, still teenagers, and they ask me, does this apply to me? I'm like, hell yeah. There is, all good advice applies pretty much at all age ranges. I don't believe in age-specific advice. I mean, if there was a Mack truck about to hit you and you were 60, wouldn't you want the same advice as when you're 6 years old? Get the hell out of the way. If you found out there was a treasure chest buried in the back of your house, would you want different advice when you're 18, when you're 80? No, you want to get it as soon as you can. So I always tell people, today's the youngest day of the rest of your life, so you might as well start now. So whether you're learning